because it's freezing up there. So at the bottom of the valley, there's all these temples, voodoo temples, and every night there would be a ceremony at one of them. Every night. So I never went to sleep like with a silent night.
Right.
It was always drums. Drums and choir, but it was from far away. It was from very far away, but you can hear it in the valley because the sound just echoes. You can hear it all the way up. So that was my exposure to it. And then one night I just sneaked out.
Oh, really? That
Yeah.
was the first time. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I just sneaked out. I was like, you know what? I gotta go figure out what this thing is putting me to sleep every night.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't go to sleep too. Like I go to sleep,
Totally.
but to it, it's like the
Right. Well, I'm sure you get used to it. You're kind of accustomed to the sound after a while.
it's the background music to my sleep.
Yeah, I remember Wilson Tremura talking about his experience growing up in Brazil being similar to that. And I specifically remember the sound he made. He was like, it always sounded like
Yeah.
like from the distance.
Yeah, from the distance. But like for me, like I would hear everything. You could hear all the instrumentation, and sometimes you can even hear the people singing. You won't hear the words, but you hear the melody.
Yeah.
You hear the melody and you hear the rhythm, and it's always been beautiful to me. Because those songs are like sometimes thousands of years old.
Okay.
You know, just carried through a tradition. Sometimes the words change. You know, but the melodies stay very, very.
Do you remember any of those bits of melodies now, or is it stuff that you ended up learning later? When
No,
you were
I remember,
learning
yeah.
the percussion style.
You mean when I was playing the drums?
Yeah, so this is
No, I
stuff
remember.
so you would have heard as a kid, and this is because later on you actually learned. You know, it went on from after that. You went and snuck off and experienced it once, but then there was this whole process of like going again and again and learning the drums.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the melodies that like became part of your vocabulary?
Oh man, you know they would sing a lot of songs for Gede.
Yeah.
Gede is like a cemetery spirit. There was like a cemetery at the bottom, and they would sing a lot of Gede songs, a lot of very fast, energetic rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I was more attracted to the more, because we have different rites in Haiti, like in Haitian voodoo. There's different rites. There's like water rites where the music is more like 6/8 rhythms, like slow 6/8 rhythms, you know, or slow 12/8 rhythms. But in that style, 6/8, 12/8, I was more attracted to that.
Oh yeah.
That's like my, like if I were to experiment, if I were to be like really good on my instruments for, you know, because I'm still learning, you know, I still can't like bring out on the instrument what I hear in there. But I will be able to. But when I do, like I want to explore those rhythms, the 6/8s, 12/8s.
Yeah, there's something about that mournful triplet. Because there's so many different ways you can express it, and it kind of inherently has this 3 against 4 idea that you can always suggest, so it can always kind of like pull on itself or push against. There's inherently a little bit of like tension, maybe, more than a straight 4/4. And
you can accent like where the strong beat, you know, it doesn't have to be everyone.
Right.
It could be at just 1 and skipping 3. Or it can be like 1 but at the place of the second. You know, the second.
Yep.
The second beat. So there's so many things you can do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, well it is. Well, it's like the minutes of the clock. It's like, you know, anything that divides into 12, there's like a lot of different ways to split it up.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's maybe a higher resolution manifold to like look at something in, because it can express itself those 2 different ways. It's like looking at something maybe in 3D rather than 2D to have two different time signatures both agreeing, like, yeah, this is where the downbeat is.
Yeah, it could be so many different places.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. Like the way that the priest that I was initiated with, we always make the joke that it's the spiritual time signature. Like you can't hear a 6/8, and it'll shift everything. You know, it'll shift the way you're dancing, the way you're singing. It's a different. It's like a different dimension.
Yeah.
And you can see it on the people too when they're dancing. You're like, oh yeah, we're gonna keep playing that 6/8 till we can't. So.
Yeah, people sink into that like 12 bell. They're like, doom, 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 doom.
Yeah.
When they hear that, it's like, ooh, it makes you like lean back.
Yeah. It's tribal, man. It's primordial.
It's talking to the ancestors with those triplet rhythms.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would sneak out. They caught me, beat me.
Man.
I did it again.
Man, well, we gotta talk. So now that we got the mic turned back on, we gotta talk about your first music experience, just briefly for the folks at home, because they'll enjoy it as much as I did. That it was a bad experience, you said.
Yeah, first experience was like what you saw on Whiplash.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get yelled at, stuff tossed at you, get beaten.
So I didn't ask this before, like, was this music teacher, like, did you ever hear this person play music? Like, was it a good musician, ostensibly?
You know, to be honest, we never even heard them play.
Right, they were just yelling.
You know what they became? They became our computer lab teacher.
Oh, really?
That's what
he business.
Became. Jeez. Yeah. He came with a recorder because we did the class with the recorder.
Uh-huh.
And I actually got good on the recorder. I was playing for the church. I was like one of the only 3 boys playing the recorder for the church.
Cool.
So I guess I could consider that successful. But after that, I never picked up. I never looked back at that class.
Yeah.
I've tried guitars, but that's because I was still growing up in the era in Haiti that, you know, it's still okay to beat kids.
Right.
Now it's not good.
At the end of it, yeah.
Yeah, right at the end of it. Because my brother didn't go through it that much. You know, probably when he was very small, but once he got up to like 6th grade, they weren't beating them anymore. You know.
Yeah, so you experienced music once in what, like you said, like fifth grade-ish, 5th or 6th grade, something like that.
6th grade, yeah.
6th grade, got beaten by the teacher. Then you went out.
Well, that was not my first. That was a bad first experience with like the academic side of music.
Right.
But I've had one of my best experiences with music was discovering my mother's CD of the Manhattans. I don't know if you know that band.
No, not familiar.
They're like the Miracles, or the Miracles with Smokey Robinson.
They might be on one of my doo-wop playlists.
Yeah, it's kind of like doo-wop, but it's more soul.
Okay. Later then. What decade are we talking?
Oh, we're talking 60s, 70s.
60s, 70s. Okay.
Yeah. Because it was before. It's slightly after or around the same time of the Temptations.
And so, what was the effect of listening to this record?
Soul music.
For the first time?
Man, that's the best music I heard.
Cool.
Like, of course, Haitian music is like some of my favorite music. You know, especially those traditional rhythms. But when I heard soul music, when I heard those guys like do those harmonies like that, you know, and the stops. Like the stops that they have in like Motown stuff. I was like, man, it put me in a mood. Like I was like dreaming.
Right.
When I was hearing the music.
It is. It's like cinematic, theatrical.
Yeah. You can see the scenes while you're listening to the song. And then you can feel what the person is like if they're crying. If they want to mimic like they're crying but they're singing. I was like, man. This is to me, that's the best era of American music, like the soul Motown era.
Yeah, I think
especially
of people
for
would agree
vocalists.
with you. I definitely have had some big Motown listening binges that I've really, really enjoyed. And
Who are some of your favorites?
Well produced. I mean, okay. The Ronettes, you know what I'm talking about? Be my baby.
Yeah.
It's like big, it's like in the 60s, it feels like watching like a 60s film on like the nice grainy old film, and the color is saturated, and there's like everything's really multi-tracked. I think, am I right that was a Phil Spector production? I might be misremembering.
I don't know.
But it's a really like richly produced song. There's a lot of like layers and things being tracked and taking advantage of like pushing the studio equipment.
And you know the other thing from that era is they like for example Marvin Gaye, like when he started, he was a drummer. A lot of people didn't know he was a Motown drummer.
Oh, okay, like that's familiar. Yeah, okay, that's cool.
He was a session drummer for, like, he played with people like James Jamerson.
Oh, cool.
So he is a good drummer to be able to play for Motown.
Yeah, 100%.
But he didn't know how to dance. Like, he didn't have any stage presence. Because all he wanted to do was, especially a lot of these older guys, like Sam Cooke, Marvin Gaye, they wanted this, like, in their head, because like they were more up there, like people like Frank Sinatra, they wanted to be more like them. Like they wanted to show that I can do that.
Right.
Like if you hear a lot of Sam Cooke's earlier stuff, like You Send Me, you know, it's like very like brushed up music, you know, like to play in like saloons. Like rich white people.
Right.
You know? So that's why Malcolm X like told him like, it's not you, man. A change is gonna come. That's you.
Right. Yeah, they're trying to like succeed in the establishment, and he's saying like, no, the new establishment is going to arrive. And I agree, it has to. The prophecies of the eagle and the condor are coming true. You know what I'm talking about?
The eagle.
The eagle and the condor. Yeah, it's like there are prophecies that are shared between tribal leaders in North America and South America, like in the tribes of the eagle and the tribes of the condor, because the condor is like the South American bird.
Okay.
But it's something that sociologically is talked about, which is like after a certain period of time, like colonialism begins in the middle of that millennium, about 500 years ago now. But it takes so much time, like once Europe stops sending colonial power, once the population starts to like regulate and not flow so strong in that direction, the natural culture of the area that comes from like the geography, like living in harmony with the actual land, is the primary thing rather than the colonial force. And so the tribal leaders predicted that it would take this 500-year period of time for like the swing of culture on this side of the globe to shift back, and so that's what there are.
Well, William Lynch said the same thing, same thing.
Okay, yeah.
He said, do those things and you will keep these people under your control for another 400 years or more. That's what he said.
Oh my gosh! So Willie Smith, you said that's
not Willie Lynch. You ever read that?
That's not. Is this the guy that we get the term lynching from? Am I remember that? Okay, so I guess I do remember a little bit. Oh my god! I did not realize that was something that he said.
Yeah, that's something that he said. Because it's more than lynching. Like he was he was thinking of ways to keep people under control.
Right.
Fear was a big thing. Like in Haiti, they would they probably did this here too. Like they would tie you to horses.
Oh yeah.
Going both ways.
You get drawn and quartered. I think. Yeah.
So, like people were to intimidate people. Like, so if you run away, that's what's gonna happen.
Right.
But they couldn't stop Haiti.
Yeah.
It was like, we're not. Because there's so many mountains, man.
Yeah.
Like you run up to the mountains, they're never gonna find you.
Yeah.
Never. You make a fort up there, they're never gonna be able to reach.
Right.
Especially if you get like the same ammunition that the enemy has. If you have like a fortress, and you have cannons.
Right.
Like, how are they gonna come up? Like, it's already 3 days to get to the top of the mountain. They're gonna know you're coming.
Right.
So, Haiti was blessed in that way that, like, the people there used at the time, they used the topography to their advantage. So, art of war. That's one of the things they didn't put in the art of war, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Use the topography.
It's important. It's important. You got to be in harmony with the environment. No
Well, the guy called Makandal in Haiti, he was like one of the slaves, but he was one of the biggest leaders of the revolution. But he didn't fight with guns. Like, he knew so much about the plants. Like, he would poison an entire plantation.
Oh my God!
If you drink the water.
Yeah. Huh.
If you eat the fruit.
Wow.
So a lot of the warfare was rooted in Haitian voodoo. Like, because Haitian voodoo is kind of like a weapon at the time.
Right.
Like, we had to, because we didn't have guns and things like that, you're like,
right.
okay, there's
having
plants.
a plant medicine that is based in the land that you're on, so you have the superior knowledge of where to get all those medicines. Yeah. And poisons.
And because the saying of Makandal is like, the medicine is the poison.
Right.
So I guess that's why Haitian voodoo gets a bad rap as well. Because we've always used it against, like, any outside power that tries to come. Like, when there was an American occupation in 1945, like right before World War, the United States came to Haiti and occupied. They took the reserves, like the gold reserves. But a lot of the peasants weren't happy. You know, there was like a bunch of revolutions, and they used like all kinds of like powders on them.
Right. Biological warfare.
So that's when, like, it was around that time that a lot of people got inspiration to make horror movies in Hollywood, like with the voodoo themed, like zombies.
Right.
You know, things like that. So Haitian voodoo has always, in New Orleans voodoo too, has always been like a negative connotation, because if you try to hurt them with like a big weapon, they're gonna use their big weapons.
Right.
You got guns? Okay. I got something.
But yeah, I think I remember it coming up in this Haitian Creole linguistics class. I think I told you that I took, where they were talking about the making of zombies, and they were different, like, I mean, obviously there's like this whole like continuum of different traditions, but there are certain plant medicines that would be like secretly administered to people, and then they would be like taken, bound and gagged, and like they wake up some other place and they're like drugged up on some kind of like plant substance that's keeping them out of their wits, and they just are used or leveraged or kept for ransom or whatever incidents of that. It sounds like maybe that's an aspect of that warfare, of that chemical warfare against the colonial imposition.
Because, for example, in some parts in Haiti, like, there's some crimes that, because Haiti, like, when Haiti was forming, there was no police. You know, like, when we just kicked the French out, there was no police. You know, there was the army, but the army was so small compared to, like, all the people. So there were, like, villages with, it's like one guy, military guy.
Right.
You know, and he could be a bad guy too.
Right.
So there has to be a system that keeps order. And the way that the Native Americans did it, because a lot of Haitian culture has like the Taino culture in it. Haitian voodoo is like, in my opinion, a big percentage of it is Native American.
Mm-hmm.
A big percentage. I did that research. But how they would do it, because they didn't have police either.
Right.
You know, everybody like was on the same level. But there was a group of elders that decided, like, there were crimes that were like, if you did that, we don't want you anymore.
Right.
You know, like if you rape, or like if you do like something intentionally to harm someone.
Sure.
You know, like give up on your family. Like in Haiti, like there's this guy, famous story. They even did a movie about it. That was dead, and they saw him somewhere.
Oh, okay. And so he faked his death, or like to.
He didn't fake his death, but they faked his death.
Oh.
But he was punished. Because he sold his family's land without telling any of his brothers and sisters. Took all the money. So they were like, okay, we're gonna punish him. So they did that to him.
Right. Wow. Okay. Wow.
So it's like really when you step out of line.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's before we had the police.
Yeah. So tell me about the role of the drums in the ceremony. Like, what is it? Is it like what I think of when I think of like playing in the gospel
it's
church?
The same
it's
thing.
Like we're accompanying the preacher essentially. Oh, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
You're carrying the message up.
Yep.
To the whatever you think it is.
Right.
God, the heavens. The drums are like an amplifier for the words that are being spoken or sung. It intensifies it. You know, like if the pastor is saying something and the keyboard is playing something minor, you know, it's going to make people feel a certain type of way.
Right.
People might even start crying.
Right.
You know, or start getting possessed.
Sure.
So, it's the same thing. But just not with any... There's no harmonic instruments.
It's all drums.
It's all percussive.
Okay.
But when you hear it, because there's so many drums, you can hear everything.
There's melodies in it.
So, what we call voodoo jazz in Haiti is based on that, like hearing those patterns and then being able to recreate them on instruments.
That's cool.
So you can hear a bass line through the drums playing. You know, you can hear 1-5, 1-5.
Right.
You know, you can hear stuff. So that's what I want to do eventually.
Cool.
Once I get very comfortable in my instruments.
Yeah.
And I catch myself doing it a lot when playing the bass, like doing some stuff that I know on the percussion.
Oh, okay.
It's just
like
intuitive.
Rhythmic rudiments or just like sounds that you're used to from like one drum to the other? Like you said, from
sometimes sounds too, because we have this note that we play. It's like a slide on the drum.
Like boom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing on the bass.
Right. Yeah.
You know? You can do the same thing on the bass.
Cool.
To me, the bass is a big string drum.
Yeah. Right. We talked about that before. I agree with you about that.
That's what it is. Because when I started playing the bass, I didn't know anything about... Well, I did know I did know the pentatonic scale.
Sure.
You know, because I was taking guitar lessons for 2 months. And I played the bass at Guitar Center when I moved. I was like, man, well, I was lying to myself.
Yeah.
I love guitar. You know, I want to be able to play the guitar as well, but I had to start with the bass.
Cool. Yeah, 100%. Especially coming from percussion. I feel that.
Yeah. But I thought I was supposed to do guitar because that's what everybody does.
Right. 100%.
So it was all in my head.
Yeah.
Because ever since I was a kid, I was always listening to bass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like James Jamerson.
Yeah.
Because from discovering that Motown stuff, I went and discovered other stuff too. Jackson 5.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Mom, what is that music? She's like, oh, this is the music that we used to listen to when we were kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I want that music.
Yeah,
I'm a kid.
Yeah, right.
I'm a kid now.
That's cool.
So she gave me all her stuff. Her brother had like a vast collection of like the Manhattans, Jackson 5, Stevie Wonder. So
That's cool. So that was the early stuff that inspired you to get on the bass, get on the guitar, start to branch out off the percussion instruments.
No, not off the. Well, I wasn't even playing percussion then.
Oh,
when I was listening to that
so we're
music.
talking about like early childhood, early exposure to music.
I wasn't even playing any instruments when I discovered the Motown, so it's always been there.
Yeah.
Even before I decided to partake, to take music seriously. Mm-hmm. So when I started playing the bass, I was like, let me learn some of those songs.
Yeah.
My Girl, things like that.
Right. Yeah, strong melodies. Good themes to have under your fingers.
And then, ironically, when I'd been playing the bass for like 4 months, mm-hmm. and I decided to go to school to start studying music at Santa Fe.
Cool, man.
And they're like, yeah, you got to join the jazz band. Mm-hmm. And then we have an R&B band. I'm like, yeah, I want the R&B band.
Yeah. I've seen the R&B band. It's good.
Yeah. So I was in the R&B band last semester.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, what kind of tunes did you do with the R&B band? What artists?
We had a very big list to choose from for our last show. Mm-hmm. But we played Otis Redding. We played what is the name of that song? I don't like you, but I need you.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of the tune.
You really got a hold on me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those songs.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's like thunder, lightning. The way you love me is frightening. Knock on wood. So we played all that stuff.
Cool. I bet that was really fun. Horn section, like what was the
horn section, man?
You were in it, yeah. What was the band like?
Saxophone. Not soprano, not alto. Well, we had tenor and baritone.
Yeah.
But the baritone is like
that
essential.
Yeah.
It's essential in
that like beefy.
Oh yeah.
Low brass honking sound.
Because a lot of black music, like everywhere in the world, is bass driven. Mm-hmm. Like when people figured out that they could play the bass, because it's all those percussionists, like Richard. Richard Bona.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He was a percussionist. Like
Richard Bona's awesome.
But when he figured out you could do that stuff on the bass, I'm like, you can't. So like most of black music, even in the church, the bass has so much freedom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Church bass players are some of the best bass players on the planet.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like Keith.
Yeah.
Keith is like a beast.
Oh yeah.
Darius, Bo Diddley's grandson.
Yeah, I've jammed with I've hung out with him quite a bit actually.
Lee Diddley,
I really like that dude. Yeah.
He's really good. Those are all church musicians. Guys.
Yeah.
And the drummers, like kid drummers.
Yeah, like
crazy,
really strong, like rudiment driven, but just like long technical fills.
It's like, but it's the same thing with me, Mm-hmm. Like they bring you to the ceremony,
right?
Or you're hearing it, and you're falling asleep to it because sometimes kids won't last.
Right.
Like they won't last the whole mass.
Yeah.
Especially in the black church, that thing can go for like.
Oh yeah, they don't care. Hours. They'll just keep going. Yeah.
It's the therapy time.
Yeah.
So like they'll fall asleep and the music's still playing and you're just
you're absorbing it.
When you're sleeping, you're absorbing more.
Yeah.
That's why you hate songs.
Right.
Because you're like, I listened to that thing 10,000 times.
Yeah,
I know it. Mm-hmm. I know it so much that I hate it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it always does seem playing in the band like there's some deeper thing going on. No, at any spiritual, ceremonial situation, like the music always adds an element that I feel like is irreplaceable with anything else.
Yeah, like church wouldn't work without music. Like from the earliest days. like you can't get people ceremonially united without music.
Yeah. It allows you to kind of like leave yourself. You can float outside because you kind of know everybody else is experiencing that music at the same moment that you are. It connects you in this faster way.
That's why, like, I'm not like, some people are against religion, you know, and I don't like talking religion really, because it's like a touchy subject.
Sure.
You know, but like some people really find, because I'm not Christian, but I play in a church. I play in a Christian church because I can play with it. I've played with the Hare Krishnas. I've played with obviously Haitian folklore bands. So I see myself, I'm just in service here. You know, I'm just helping you reach to whoever you think is the highest. I'll help you reach that.
Exactly, yeah.
And I love playing bass in church too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Especially the contemporary Christian stuff.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah. But it's kind of like it has that epic like post-rock build. Like you're always building up towards that last.
It's
bridge.
U2. It's like U2. It's
right,
like a U2 concert.
Yeah. The echoey guitars. Yeah. And the really epic.
It's a U2 concert.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you see, like, if you see those stadiums where they do those Christian rock concerts.
Oh yeah, it's all the super simple 4-chord like pop like. Yeah.
But people are just enthralled.
Totally.
Like everybody's
loving
and
it.
everybody's singing.
Yeah. Right. It's congregational. Yeah.
So imagine like we could do that for a Haitian voodoo band.
Yeah.
You know, with,
oh my gosh.
You know.
Yeah, because it has the same root. It's for the same thing. Absolutely.
Or anything like a Hare Krishna concert like that.
Yeah.
You know? To that, you know, grandiosity.
Yeah.
Like a stadium.
It would be powerful.
You know, or a big ohm in a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That would tilt the planet upside down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start over.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, some people say like if 1 million people meditated at the same time, you know, some things can happen.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So
it's like brain coherence. It's like great
all the
things
synchronicities.
Yeah.
It's like a grid that's formed right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like two heads are better than one. If you're experiencing a situation and you have like a constant line on somebody else's experience at the same time, like I can always look you in the eye as we're looking at this other thing. It kind of like doubles our ability to react to that situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that times a big group, 1 million people who are all doing some mindfulness practice, prayer, meditation. Who knows?
And it's funny you said eyes, because in those settings, people are so comfortable to look at each other.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know? Like a lot of people are anxious because they can't look at people.
Yeah.
If you can't look at people, you can't know what they're thinking.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Like if I come into the room like that, you know, and I don't make eye contact with anyone, what I'm gonna start thinking is what are these people thinking about me?
Right.
So,
yeah. Exactly.
So if you start making some eye contact, it starts, you know, breaking the ice.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're in touch with everyone around you.
The eye is the spirit, man. It's like,
yeah.
That's why, like if your manager knows you haven't been doing something right, they'll call you in the back. You can't lie to your manager.
Right.
Because they're looking you right in the eye.
Exactly.
Or the police.
Right.
You know, they're looking you, and sometimes it's misinterpreted. You know,
right,
sometimes it's like, I'm actually jittery because I'm afraid of you.
Right.
You know? I'm not personally, because I know how to deal with that.
Sure.
But some people are like, and then it gets misinterpreted.
Right.
But you're reading signs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the eyes are this like constant stream of information, because you can decide to stop talking, but it's like you can't unless you look
can
away,
close
your eyes, something like you got.
But once your eyes are open,
exactly, yeah.
Because you can still open your mouth and not talk.
Right, 100%. Yeah, that iridology, man, that's so interesting.
That was like the best skills that I've learned.
Yeah,
I consider like one of the top. Bass playing is up there too.
Definitely. Yeah.
Or the gift of music is up there, but like the gift of being able to, for people that want, because I didn't go out and preach to people like, oh, you gotta come figure out this stuff,
right?
Like it was word of mouth for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I first did it on myself, and I did it for some family members, and then they started. Oh, everybody's like, oh, when are you gonna do mine?
Yeah.
Everybody, because I was telling everybody the truth.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, oh, what do you?
Yeah.
And then I started working at a herb shop.
Cool.
As an iridologist.
Yeah. Oh,
so
really? So you were doing that practice like in home. You were on the plaque like, oh, you can see the iridologist.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like people came to. Because I brought a different clientele as well.
Sure.
She had her own clientele, and I brought my clients, because after I figure out all that stuff for people, because I'm an herbalist, I'm not like a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Right.
Because if I were, and I knew iridology, like it would have been a whole different game.
Right.
Because you can actually recommend stuff that's not just diet and nutrition and herbs.
Right.
You can, because you have that plaque behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
But psychology has always been an interesting field to me as well. I always took classes in psychology all throughout college. I always had like 1 or 2 psychology courses
That's
per
valuable
semester.
information. We're in our mind all the time. It's nice to know about the mind.
And then there's all these mind tricks that you learn to become a priest, because to become a priest, like you have to be realistic. People can want, there's people with that knowledge that you're going to receive that are going to want to harm you or people around you. So you have to be aware of that. So, and it could be anyone,
Right.
Like you're never gonna know. So I forgot where I was going with that.
That's alright. I think that was the camera shooting us. Maybe we'll call it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good, man.
That was awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you coming over and doing this, man.